All right, good afternoon. Nick with Sterling Homes Construction today on our podcast, The Framework. We're going to talk about Kitchen 101. With me here is Bernie, my project manager. So we're just going to kind of go review some of the stuff you're looking for in a kitchen, and what you should look for, maybe, what do you want to say? Styles.
Styles, design, just thinking about some of the questions we have often, like,
Right. Go ahead.
yeah, like when people first phone in and talk to you, Nick, what are some of the things that you start to ask them? Like, how do you assess their needs?
Usually I try to assess, like, what are you using it function wise? I mean, do you cook? Do you cook? Well, in today's society, a lot of people are good with the basic kitchen.
Right.
They don't cook. They eat out. They TV dinners. But for myself and my family, that basic kitchen doesn't work. I mean, we have one, and it's like drives you crazy because it just doesn't function. It doesn't have proper storage. That's the next question? Where do you have storage? So, and then we always got to assess. So we're going to assess your needs, your goals. What's your budget? I think people don't have a realistic cost of how things have gone up.
Yeah, that's true. That's something that we're encountering all the time, and working with the customer to understand the real cost is a real challenge these days. But what are some of the things that we can do to help them understand the true cost of the budget?
Well, unfortunately, I don't want to say COVID is an excuse, but that's kind of like where we have to look at where the market is, look how the inflation rates have gone up over the last uh, couple of years, even in the market, and then we have to. Sometimes I don't think they also consider, like, hey, we got to, depending on your design, we're gonna have to update your floors, modify your walls. Just the cost of materials in general has gone way up. So we want to make sure that we're trying to educate them of just kind of how overall, unfortunately, the market demands it.
True. I think some of the things I've seen you do when we go into a discussion with a customer is that you're walking through what are not only the needs, like for appliances
Right.
and stuff like that, how they use the space, but what's the layout, and can that either fulfill a dream or keep you on budget. Those are some of the things I've seen you do. What are some of the things you've learned to maximize space for the customer?
Well, there's so many great resources for just like storage, like Breva Shelf or something, where you can maximize the storage in a little space. Some organizational drawers. I love the thing a lot of people like. We don't always want to see our trash can, so obviously that's a common thing to put that in there. Really depends on the space, kind of limits what we can do. But some of the old houses they waste a corner. Like you have a dead corner, nothing's being used. Well, we can use a Lazy Susan. I mean, you can do a blind cabinet, but those blind cabinets are hard to get to. So those Lazy Susans or corner cabinets where you can just pull it open, rotate something just to kind of maximize that storage. The other thing that we checked on the other day, 12-foot ceilings, and they had these short little 30-inch cabinets.
Yep.
So great way to add storage. Let's go to a 42 with that space. Do you want to add a decorative, well, decorative, but it could be storage.
Yep.
Just a little harder to get to. And originally they didn't like that. They're just going to go with the one layer, and then we get back and they're like, oh, well, let's do this, this, and this. So unfortunately, we can dream it, but we have to try to be realistic on budget sometimes.
True. I think one of the things that if we could have our time with the customer a little more, and just walk through that whole experience, I think we could get them to both their vision and their budget. And what I think you and I have both realized over the years of experience is that people rush into it instead of plan it well.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the other questions we go to, like, not only what's your budget, what is your timeline, how soon do you want to get this done, so that we can work it into their schedule or our schedule. Like, are you financially ready for this? Because we're going to say it can be, 50 to 100. Heck, we've seen kitchens 150 plus,
Yeah.
depending on what they want to do. If we're going to maybe bump out the walls to make out the kitchen bigger.
Right.
So that's kind of those options that we have to consider. And, like, are you prepared for us to be in there for that long of a period of time to renovate it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think before we forget, one of the other cool things I've seen you point out on a regular basis to maximize storage is just good old-fashioned pot and pan drawers.
Yeah.
There's hardly any of those that you see these days.
And
that's
it's very
huge.
hard when you are cooking for a family and you have several bigger pots and you don't have anywhere to put them and you're digging for them or rumbling around or can't put them in the pantry because the pantry's not big enough. Homes weren't designed for a lot of that unless you go into more customs. But we've seen it all. Usually the people that are looking for a new kitchen are looking for more storage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Besides outdated look, they're looking for more storage.
Now, you just mentioned outdated look, and I think some of the things that people forget is that taking time to remodel a kitchen actually invests in their home and in the value of that.
Exactly.
Like, what does that mean for a return on investment? What does that often do for the property?
Well, you usually get really dollar for dollar on your kitchen and bathroom remodels or master bathroom. I say those are kind of like your two top because the heart of the home is the kitchen, absolutely. So it's functional. So I really feel like, and even if you search it out, what are your best returning on investment for a home is kitchen is one of your top.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you really kind of get dollar for dollar. If you were to go to sell the kitchen, I just did a $80,000 remodel, then you're really going to get that back.
No, I can see that. What are some of the things you've learned that can be cost savings throughout the project?
Ooh, cost savings throughout the project. I wouldn't say limit your expectations because
No, that
that does not limit your. It's just really shopping the materials, trying to figure out. We really don't like to go with basic grade cabinets, so that's really because we're a company that strives on putting out quality and not just like your builder grade cabinets. So that's kind of hard. But we have avenues. It just really depends on what they want, because if they want tile backsplash, well, then there's added expense. If they want granite, or almost anymore, we're going to almost every time put a new quartz countertop or granite countertop. So really just steering the budget that direction because there's plenty of beautiful options for not so costly. And then we've seen them that are, I've bought slabs for $700 a slab, and I've seen slabs for $3,000 to $4,000 a slab.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what you want, and there's so many great options.
Absolutely. I think one of the other things that we've discovered working with our customers is that expanding the scope. Now that sounds a little scary, but what are, like, for example, what are some of the things that expanding the scope does?
Expanding the scope as far as new appliances or
Well,
more lighting, electrical, changing the
right.
walls.
Yeah, looking at future renovations as well.
Yeah, because kitchen is obviously the heart of the home, and we want to look at the lighting, we want to look at functionality, and is there anything else you want to do in the home that you can reasonably do at the same time? Because then it's overall, it saves us, the client, time and money if we can do everything they'd like to do at once. We know it's absolutely not always feasible, just because it's the bigger the scope, the lower we can essentially create our margins to get in there.
True, and that also what people don't realize is that the greater the scope, the longer the trade is there, and there isn't that a total cost for trip that's involved.
Right.
A short trip still costs the same as a day there for the trip there and back. So there's all kinds of little things that expanding the scope can do to reduce cost overall of the project and set you up for success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the other things that we look for in making sure that we do a great job is quality trades.
Correct. Yeah, all our trades licensed, vetted, insured, bonded. We've already built that kind of relationship with them, so we can trust them to be in the home if we're not there 24/7. Obviously, if we're doing a kitchen remodel, most likely homeowners are home, right? At some point, or they're gone for the day. But knowing you can have a company in there that you can trust, and then obviously we do not just let our subs be in there at all times without us just checking and making sure that there's anything questions or needs to check for any potential mistakes that we need to get corrected before it gets out of hand.
Yeah.
Because the sooner you catch any mistake, the less cost and time it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of some of the other things that happen during the course of the remodel of the kitchen. For example, is a lot of the demolition.
Right.
Now, there's some things there that people don't realize are important. For example, we want to have a porta potty on site. One
Right.
is, and just thinking about how my wife would look at that not wanting our trades to be using your washroom is a big deal, because to us that we can't manage that. Whereas the porta potty, that is a big deal, and we
Yeah,
can
that's kind
manage
of
that.
one of my requirements, and I've had one customer fall back, oh, you can just like, look, we don't want the responsibility. I mean, no, we're not saying that our subs would be crazy messy, but I feel like it's just a more professional way to handle it. And really, the dumpsters that we order have them built in,
Yeah,
so and they're always nice and clean. So that just kind of eliminates. We want to minimize the impact on our client's home as much as possible, especially if they're living in the home,
yeah,
because it's going to be stressful enough with everybody in and out. Especially if they have pets, they got to manage to make sure the pets are away, or if the
that's, yeah,
kids are at school. I
yeah,
mean, we're coming up on summer now, but so it's not necessarily as big a deal as it would be during the school months, but it still can be an impact for that
yeah.
to consideration. So, not having to worry about that, we really try to make sure adamant with our trades, like, look, don't use the customer's facilities. We have them here provided for you. And then just, I think it overall provides a better experience for the customer.
Absolutely. And as a project manager, you already know one of the things I'm looking at when I walk in the house is the shortest path to get the things we're ripping out, minimizing dust and all that.
Yeah,
So
and
those are,
especially in demolition, everything really needs to be protected and covered, and we don't want any damage, because there's some things you end up damaging a floor instance, then it's going to be very costly to fix.
yeah. What about some of the surprises you've had in a remodel, tearing out walls?
Well, we've had kitchens where that's it's like you got to imagine. There's a couple examples. Sorry, client wanted to take out your built-in pantry and just replace it with a full cabinet right next to the refrigerator. Have this nice consistent flow. Day one, we're in demo. Open up the drywall on that wall, and lo and behold, there's a 4-inch pipe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 2-story home, so where's that 4-inch pipe coming from? It's coming from the upstairs toilet. And then there's water lines in there. There's absolutely no way we can move that.
Mm-hmm.
So what, have to kind of pause, rethink. Cabinets are on order. Luckily, they hadn't been manufactured yet, so you have to call them up in a rush, like, hey, hold on a minute. Let's reevaluate this. Luckily, we managed to do is shorten that cabinet. So we had a 36-inch pantry cabinet going in.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have a 4-inch pipe, so now we have to take that down to a 33.
Right.
So in order to hide that pipe, essentially, we have the 33-inch cabinet, then we have a filler, and then another just full refrigerator panel.
Yeah.
So now that's all done, it looks great.
Yeah.
But you're always going to come up with those unexpected surprises. And then another one we've had in kitchens where it's funny. Second, it was a 2-story. Microwave goes through the back wall. Got all this open space. They had a tray,
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of their cabinet was there, and then they had a tray ceiling. Like, what's that there for? Really didn't make sense that it was there. So we opened it up, and what happened was the microwave duct is going from behind the wall, so it's going into the wall to go outside.
Yeah.
But because it's a 2-story, it can't go through the framing on the second floor.
Right.
So that's why that tray was built there,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can plumb that out.
Okay. That makes total sense.
So okay, now we're already got the tray down. We figure out this duct is in here. How are we gonna work this? So we cleverly had the cabinet guy build a box, which actually looked really nice when it was done. It was all fabricated to look just like the cabinets. So it still went up, but instead of having to worry about going through the structural frame of the floor joist, we kind of went through, because a lot of these double-story houses have almost like a frame web truss.
Yep.
So we just ran it through that, and we relocated, had to do patchwork on the stucco, but that was a lot less headache than having to try to worry about the frame. So it's remodeling, you're always going to find something. I don't care what it is. Never have one. Expect the unexpected, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So we always have to have a contingency, like, this is what we see.
Yeah.
But when we open it up, something might change. We don't strive for that. We try to make sure it's as close as possible. And with those instances like that, especially the duct one into the microwave, that one was like, we didn't know it was going to be there. We honestly, there's no way we could have.
Right.
And you don't know until you open up the frame.
Right.
So those are the things we don't know sometimes. We've had some close ones, the same thing. We're like, oh, there's nothing in here with the same kind of scenario, had that duct up there, but then luckily it was close enough that we were able to manage without any crazy modifications, but just the way it was routed, and there was a little offline where we were setting it in there. That's maybe not as extreme as we go into the bathroom sometimes. Those can be a whole other game.
Yeah. So some of the things I'm hearing you already work with is moving into the new installation. What are some of the things that start to happen? What's the course of construction on the new? Say we've ripped everything out. What's the next step?
So everything's ripped up and ready to go?
Everything's ripped out, and what's next?
Well, again, that depends on the layout, right? So if we're moving any electrical or plumbing, so that would need to be all rerun. So like if we're using existing, we've had where we pulled tile off the wall. Mm-hmm. So that usually takes off the drywall as well. Cabinets you can take off without removing drywall.
Right.
You have an old tile backsplash, the drywall is most likely coming off.
Right.
So you have to replace that drywall. And sometimes we open up, we find stuff that we have to fix inside the drywall. We've found broken frame before.
Right.
So we fix it. But where we're going with that really is, so if the lighting, we've had remodels where we're moving plumbing, we're moving the electrical, so all that has to be done. And then like I've had a kitchen where we took out the sliding door, modified the frame down to a single door. So you got to reframe in there, and then you got to insulate. You got to run all the new wires. We put a different window in there. So it really depends on what we're doing. If it's a basic, we're pulling out the old kitchen, put it in the same layout. It's a lot simpler than we're rechanging the layout, taking out down a wall halfway, which we've done that. Mm-hmm. So you have to move all the electrical. So once we get all the electrical back done in, everything's good to go, passes code, then it's drywall, get it all textured, finished. Then we're installing the cabinets generally, and then, getting the countertops measured. So there's a gap between that time. So once the cabinets are installed, we have usually about a week before the countertops coming in, because they're going to take their templates and they're going to go make their cuts and make them modified and get them ready. In the meantime, like if we are doing the flooring, we can essentially have the flooring done to the cabinets. If we're obviously using that space, a lot of things can be done in that prep, and then once we're got those countertops in, then we get those in and start painting or whatever touch up we need to do, and get the hardware on and test everything out, make sure everything's functional.
Nice.
Do a walkthrough with the client, make sure there's nothing that they see or we see. Blue tape, essentially. There's always something, and then we just go through it, and then thank the customer, and I say hand them the keys, but they already have the keys at that point.
The keys, it's turn over the spatula and
turn it
the
over.
pot
It's
pan.
yours. Enjoy.
Yeah. What are some of the key maintenance things that customers need to know?
Well, we found out once. I'll say maintenance. So one of the caveats we've learned is while granite and quartz are very durable, still should put a pot holder on the countertops, because we've gotten the call, customer countertop cracked, and we've discovered it was from heat. We put hot pans on there too long, and it happened to be a sensitive corner, so then it broke. But cleaning obviously is important, maintenance, just overall taken care of. If you notice, usually the cabinets that you use the most, depending, will start to loosen up on the hinges.
Right.
So every once in a while, let's just go through, tighten them up.
Yeah.
Really keeping and maintaining and not slamming the doors, which we use soft close, so that's kind of hard to do. But it can really, a kitchen can last years. I mean, we've seen kitchens, we've pulled out kitchens that are 50 years old.
Right.
So really, maintenance to any kitchen can make it last for a long time.
Right. So essentially, it is a long-term return on investment.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So you said dollar for dollar. That's generally something you've seen in experience?
From what we've seen, yes. I mean, obviously every situation can be different, and we don't know what's going on with the rest of the home. but usually they say it's usually dollar for dollar. I mean, don't quote me, but if you really look it up, when you do that, the best investment for your home for remodeling purposes is your kitchen and master bath,
Yeah.
because those are like the homeowner's most used space.
Yeah.
Of course, now if you come in there putting in a purple kitchen, I can't guarantee you value.
Yes. Well, no, and that goes back to the design stage and being wise and just taking a look around what's on the market and that. So that's another important thing
Right.
that we
This
do.
isn't going to be timeless.
Right. Yeah. So one of the other cool things that people don't know is Nick has a real ability to put together a kitchen layout in short order. So yes, him.
It's
We're
not
gonna
easy sometimes.
no, but we're gonna put a time lapse video here together someday here of him designing a kitchen because it's really cool and how he puts that together. But there's some other cool things that people, if they're got some freedom and play in their budget, can add in like ice makers.
Yep. Ice maker, under cabinet. That last one we had, they wanted to talk to them about having the mixer come up from under the cabinet.
That's
so it's
right.
not on the countertop. KitchenAid mixers are heavy.
Yes.
So if we have something, we just pull it in and don't have to. My wife personally likes to see it on the countertop, and it does look good. But if you don't want to see it in that minimal, like clean look, then we have the option that you can do that, or appliance drawer.
Right.
There's so many options you can do to make it functional. I mean, like, what was that one we did in Waddell, the under counter lighting? Really
Yeah.
brightens it up in there, especially, all those little caveats that you can do just to brighten it up.
Absolutely, and more pot lights around the rim of the kitchen and the cabinet.
Yeah, that's the one kitchen. Back to the one with the pipe that was in the wall. They had this one small dining room light in there. I'm looking around, I'm like, it is so dark in here. How do you see to cook?
Yeah.
So she's like, it's definitely hard because they have to turn on the microwave light to cook. And that's really not a ton. With some drywall repair that we had to do anyway, I'm like, while you're here, do we want to just put in some can lights? Really wasn't that expensive to do, and we just talked to them the other day, and she's like, "Oh man, I'm so grateful we put in these lights."
There we go.
So because we can see, it's easier to cook, brighter in the kitchen.
Yeah. I think some of the things I've heard from you though in the last while too is like a kitchen remodel. You said the heart of the home. It's a return on investment, but also that there's more to what we do. We want to be extraordinary, not ordinary in what we accomplish. But it's also sitting with the customer,
Right.
and getting to know them and sorting that out and taking that extra time to build their budget with them. And I know that that's a passion of yours, to see the customer have the best positive experience. What are some of the fun moments of a kitchen that you've turned over?
We had this one that had some fire damage to their kitchen. Luckily, it wasn't major on the rest of the house. They did catch it quick enough, contained to the kitchen. The original concept design, I put a waterfall edge on the countertop as an option.
Yeah.
So she's like, yeah, budget-wise, because it was insurance, blah, blah, blah. So we decided at the time, we didn't tell the client. I mean, she honestly didn't even know until we installed the countertops, that we just, we had some extra slab left from the countertop. And I'm like, look, let's just use it up. Let's give this customer something great.
Yeah.
So with that, working with the electrician as well, it was like, okay, how do we put the outlet? Because we need this outlet on the outer, so we got to cut this. Electrician came up with this fantastic idea. They have these little pop-ups.
Right.
So it's like a charging station, but you pop it up. It actually has plugs, so you can either have your phone on there, USB ports, whatever. So we actually had it cut, set this in there. The countertop guy cut it where it'd be nice and pretty close to flush, right on the edge. She had no clue until it was kind of like that finished detail. And
Right.
she walked in, she was like, what the?
Yeah.
We just did it as an extra, thank you for your business. We really wanted to go the extra step. I mean, that can't happen in all situations, but we really try to see how we can make something. If the customer doesn't really want it, then we're not going to put it there. There's something she wanted, she just didn't know how she was going to put it.
If I remember
in the
right, that's
budget.
in one of our Instagram reels or video reels.
Yep, it's on social media, Instagram, Facebook. It's a Blankenship kitchen. So yeah, so there's pictures in there. It's actually detailed where it's up in there, so it's really cool. She left obviously a crazy raving review. I was in the other room when she was doing the video, and I was just like, kind of like, trying not to be emotional, but
Yeah.
kind of, it was pretty cool. I was pretty happy with the whole process that we did for them, and just to go that step above and make it mean something to them.
Absolutely. No, I think, Nick, some of the things that we do in a kitchen remodel in 101, there's always more room for questions, and we would obviously entertain them.
Oh
So
yeah,
how would
absolutely.
they get a hold of you?
So they can obviously contact us if they're interested in setting an appointment on our website, sterlinghomesaz.com. You can go on, there's a contact page, there's more resources, information on there. Our social medias are all Sterling Homes AZ. Same with YouTube, so if they want to follow us for that, this will end up on there as well. And they can subscribe to there. Our phone number, 602-717-2683. And that's it for today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time on The Framework.